Mabuhay, Kamustika, welcome. How are you? This is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea. I think it's about time to get that rooster inside here. It sounds like here in Nebraska, we're going to be having some big time snow coming up. And so this is week of Thanksgiving. And so I really wanted to do a live just to keep up with everybody here on Monday. I've been home for about 9 weeks, recovering from knee replacement. So I keep forgetting what day it is. This T-shirt here, I love DVO. It's supposed to stand for DeVow. I'm sitting on 3 pillows here, and still can't quite see the DVO, but that's what that is. So thank you for being here today. We are going to talk about, as usual, we can talk about anything you want. The reason I have this title here, as I tried to find some of the talking points, is we can talk about the last 4 live streams or uploads, 32 ways to blow it with a Filipina. And this could be, most of it's online, and it can be transferred to other types of relationships with women in other countries, long distance relationships. So that's something that we can talk about. And then Mr. E's video commentary on the Western Exodus, reciprocity, as many men are leaving the West as they realize that, what is the point in continuing to do the same things, and it's not working. And you really owe it to yourself, if you're serious about getting married, thinking about other countries, because men have carved out their own path in other countries before. It seems like this is becoming a little bit more prevalent in other countries, including the Filipinas, or the Philippines with Filipinas, and I am totally supportive of that. I didn't get married till I was 53, not for lack of effort, not for lack of desire, maybe lack of opportunity, but I took my full advantage when I could on a dating site, and it's a trend now. Big Rob, thanks for joining us, Big Rob, tonight. It's a trend to live abroad, and a lot of the guys that I'm thinking about are just interested in contacting somebody overseas, trying to establish a relationship with them, go over there once, twice, 3 times a lady, no, once, twice, 3 times, and propose to their lady, and then bringing her back here with the possibility of moving to her country. And I'm not a younger guy, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now, possibility of retiring in the Philippines as soon as I am able to retire. And Jay Bud has walked in the house now. Jay Bud, we'll look at your comment. Son Valen, thank you for being here. Big Rob, just a quick mention here that we got 3 links at the very top of the live chat section. Off to the right, you click on live chat if you didn't know, and then you can see everybody's comments, and that I will be trying to keep up with and refer to. But the very start, I have a link to the community corner, and that's a brand new message board we're trying to get going, where people can talk about all kinds of things. We've got it's a positive community. We want people to be thinking about what they can do to find love overseas. Does not have to be limited to the Philippines. Improvements that can be made. We have a lifestyle lounge that Mr. E designed. Discussion regarding fitness, money, health, career, expat living, nutrition, cryptocurrency, general travel, hobbies, and other lifestyle topics. We actually have some stuff going on in there right now. And the relationship lounge, discussion regarding attracting, building, maintaining long-term relationships with both foreign women and domestic women. And so just needed to plug that, because we do have some more action going on in there. In the lifestyle lounge, somebody had asked why Mr. E took his privacy so seriously. And Mr. E gave a serious reply. And in that community corner lifestyle lounge, he goes into great depth about the need for privacy today. I think you'll find it very interesting if you have been thinking about that, and you probably should at least take a look around at that topic. And and then we have a young man runs a blog on international relationships, and he has left some comments in the relationship lounge, which I think you might find interesting. So that's why that link is there. The whole WordPress site, that's where all the Love Beyond the Sea stuff is in one place. And I even linked Aiza's channel there. She's been really busy, and but she's got some videos on there. So it's a trend now, living abroad, very expensive in the West, and the lure of the possibility of the elusive wife that you can't seem to find here anymore, that drives people to think about another country when, like me, the thought never crossed my mind. But I wanted to get married so badly, I was willing to go somewhere else. It was the Philippines, and I did get married. Now I've been married 4.5 years, and it was so easy and so quick. It's she's made me forget about being single all those years. Jay Bud, talk about women getting engaged to themselves to discover their self-love. WGTOW women going their own way, getting engaged to themselves. And Jay Bud, I know that sounds ludicrous, but it has happened, and I'll bet that the woman or the women, if more women have done that, there's a symbolic aspect to what they did. But part of me thinks there's some seriousness to it too. Because there's an exodus of men from the West, and women are saying you can't find a good man, and so at least one woman, and probably others, have resorted to having a wedding ceremony for themselves. I suppose they have an engagement, they have a ceremony, and they're telling the world that they don't need a man. They're okay, being single. And in fact, they like themselves so much they marry themselves, which is, I don't know, that's kind of a twisted, convoluted thought to me. I mean, why go to the trouble of marrying yourself? And if you like yourself, you don't need to marry yourself. Very strange, Jay Bud, but that does happen. In fact, that reminds me of something else that you brought to my attention, and I had seen before, so I want to mention it here, and that is another phrase, and that is what was it? I can see her face, Emma Watson, and she made the statement that she wasn't married, but she was self-partnered. That's what it was. She was self-partnered. Not a whole lot of difference between marrying yourself and saying that you are self-partnered. Yet you're still single. I mean, to me, at the end of the day, I could tell myself, well, I'm going to just marry myself, or I am self-partnered. Don't look at me at being single. I am self-partnered. Now, that doesn't really change your life any. Hank Hilliam, welcome tonight. Changing the terminology doesn't change your circumstances. Marrying yourself, you're still single. Self-partnered, I suppose that could catch on. Emma Watson had just turned 30, and it was starting to hit her, which is natural, at that age. Are you going to get married? Are you going to have children? And I guess she feels better saying, well, I'm okay. I'm self-partnered. I don't like the term. I would rather try to do something about the situation, and try to change the circumstances. Do what you can, for self improvement, whatever is needed. Learn what you need to know about another culture and the women there. Try something else if you haven't decided to go MGTOW and not look for somebody. But it's like one time at a singles Bible study before church, there was a single woman sitting there many years ago, I suppose, and before I could even hardly open my mouth to talk to her or introduce myself to her, she may have checked and saw that I didn't have any wedding ring on, and and she says, "Oh, I'm not single. I have a boyfriend." And that's the same thing. She's still single. She's not married. She has a boyfriend, but that doesn't mean she's married. There's a big difference. She could, she wouldn't even say she was self-partnered because she had a boyfriend, yet she doesn't consider herself single. And I just think that whole thing is kind of bizarre. Sun Valley, yes, women have chosen to ignore good men in the West to sleep around as much as possible. Problem is, they do not have the option men do. That is to say, go to other countries, older age to get a mate, in older age to get a mate. And, I'm one of many thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands throughout the decades who have decided they want to, find a wife overseas. And so that's what they set out to do. And many are in the process of that right now. Some of the subscribers I have are in the process of that. Some of them already have. Some of them are kind of kicking the tires and learning about that. But you know, it's just I'll just use myself as an example. I know all our circumstances are different, but I just got nowhere trying to get married. I really want to get married. I thought, am I giving off negative vibes and coming off as being too serious, wanting to be married, wanting to find somebody that wanted to be married? Well, I got nowhere here. Then quickly got married to a Filipina. We've been married 4.5 years. She's happy. I'm happy. We're both learning to adjust to each other, even after being married for 4 years, because I mean, that period of dating and then immigration wait, you're still not together every single day, having to make big and small decisions every single day, learning about things that are showing up now that didn't show up before. And so you'll continue to learn about her and about each other. So did I change drastically when I was 53 and was able to marry a woman from the Philippines? No. I just did what I call taking the brown pill. And that's the attitude that I'm going to break new ground, i.e., brown. I'm going to go to a different land. I'm going to go to a different part of the earth. I'm in the fall, autumn of my life. I need to do something different. So that's what I call the brown pill. Gave me the chance to actually get married. And now I'm thinking, well, how long can I be married before I die? How many years will we have together? But all the difficulty of actually finding somebody, that's now over. And Jay Bud says a bunch of movie stars do it, and it's considered wonderful, but guys do it, and everyone has a fit. And Jay Bud, are you talking about marrying younger women? I do have, I will announce I'm going to have a live stream on Wednesday morning. I'll upload that. It's going to be about Keanu Reeves. And Jay Bud, I want to cite you for letting me know about that article. And so I'll give my commentary to it. It's not very long. Keanu Reeves, longtime bachelor, has a girlfriend, and it's caused quite a stir in Hollywood. What's the stir all about? Well, the the hubbub is that he is 55 and she is 46, and supposedly that's the same age, or that's age appropriate, and there are a lot of people praising that move, giving their thumbs up, and validating that marriage or relationship, I should say, based on the age difference of 9 years. Like, it's about time somebody in Hollywood stood up, did the right thing, and had an age appropriate relationship. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on that. That will be Wednesday morning, day before Thanksgiving. We'll get that up there for you. And I don't know. I mean, we can talk about age gap relationships. I mean, it's a very popular thing to talk about. Um, you can have a desire for a much younger wife, and you can have good intentions, and you can have bad intentions too. Um, I'd been alone for so long. Personally, I thought, well, I still want to see what it was like having a younger wife. A younger wife's a wonderful thing. You still got to treat her right. You still got to, you still have to meet her relational needs and physical needs and emotional needs. And it, bottom line, it's a good thing. People say, well, wait 10 years down the road. We may not even have a 10 years down the road. Just nobody can predict that. So Hank, welcome to you tonight. Obviously, I have a age gap of 27 years. I say obviously because I've done a handful of videos on and live streams on age gap. I'm not saying that that's the best. That depends on the guy, and what he thinks he needs. I've certainly heard from men who say they don't have any interest in somebody in their 20s, or somebody with a 25, 30-year age gap. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. What that means is you have options in the Philippines. And young men now are discovering that they also have options in the Philippines. I better go back up here and try to keep up. Self-partnered, I think we have a word for that starts with M. Self-partnered, as in I'm content being with myself. I'm partnered. Partner is two. So it's really a strange term. Self-partnered. And maybe it makes Emma Watson feel better for now. Maybe that will be a catchphrase. I don't like it. I don't mind saying it. I hope no single men consider themselves self-partnered. I just think that's kind of a bizarre term. J. Bud, self-absorbed, neurotic, never satisfied, spoiled, pain in the caboose, modern girls. And well, there's something going on. I appreciate the thumbs up. I really do. Something going on in the West. And I was wondering, when I was taking all these years trying to find somebody, what if people thought I was just too picky, or I was socially irresponsible, or just irresponsible in general. My standards were too high. I didn't think so. I didn't think so at all. And I also get the impression in the last 4.5 years, since I was able to tie the knot, that it's as hard or harder today for men in the West. And I come across more videos on YouTube of young guys complaining and lamenting and moaning about how the well seems to be dry, and these guys are in their mid 20s, 30s, 40s, nice looking guys, and they can't seem to find someone either. And a lot of these guys, they want a relationship. They don't want to play the field all their life, and they're having trouble. That's why, before too many years slip away and you're reeling in the years, to quote a Steely Dan song, I like Steely Dan music, you might need to start thinking about somebody overseas, so that you can maximize your time together. Sun Valen, yes, J. Bud, well, modern Western women just show what happens when they no longer submit to men. They become insane. Literally, it goes against nature. Look at the amount of SSRI they're consuming. Um, well, if you a man, men want to lead their wife. They want to be in control or in charge. They want to have responsibility. They want to have their wife feel that they have some wisdom about them and they can help them. And especially, a younger woman, you have an awful lot that you can share with her, to help her. And when and I've done a video, believe it or not. I had uh, the guts to do a live stream on submission and what it is and what it isn't, because I just believe biblically, the wife is supposed to submit to her husband. Now, that doesn't mean that he has her walk around with a chain on her neck like a dog. It just means that, somebody's responsible to make the right calls, the tough decisions. And a man would appreciate a wife that kind of allows him to lead, and he'll take responsibility. If he makes the wrong decision, he'll learn from it. But to not follow his lead, if he is trying to lead, is, that's just bad for the relationship. And doesn't mean that the woman is inferior in any way, shape, or form. But somebody has to be kind of the responsible person, and I think that needs to be the male. And the more a wife will allow her husband to grow in that leadership role and submit to him, I think that's designed to be for the best. Women have never had more freedom, opportunity, access to every aspect of American life, and they have never been more miserable. Well, J. Bud, feminism has been around a while. I suppose I might have heard the term, back in the 60s or 70s, when I really had no reason to even know what it was about. And fast forward to today, 2019, and now you even have feminists saying that it has backfired. It has not accomplished what it was intended to do. And I would quote that source for you, of that feminist, but I don't have that with me. But I have read something online about that, where a feminist says, "Look, this isn't what we wanted back then. This isn't what we wanted to see today. This isn't right," and it has been a disaster. Sun Valen, I think they talk about this in ancient writings and religious texts. Women are never happy. The more you give, the more they want. You need boundaries and a roof. Well, to some extent, that can go for guys too. We're never happy. But while you mention that, Filipinas, I believe, are, the term simple woman comes to mind. She's content without having the best of things. She just wants an increase, a higher standard in her living conditions. Yeah, she might want a designer purse or something like that. Excuse me, to because she likes to. There's nothing wrong with that. But I don't think you're going to see the materialism, at least in a Filipina. Those are, I'm more familiar with the woman from the Philippines, and in my research and being married to one, I don't think you'll see the rampant materialism with her like you would see here. I think they are much more realistic in what they need to be happy. I don't think they value things. They value relationships. They value family. And you marry a Filipina, you're part of her family, and then it's up to you to kind of ingratiate yourself to her family. And embrace them, and they will embrace you. You know, a family member of mine is a family member of Aiza's. Friend of mine is a friend of Aiza's. Yeah, J Bud has a hidden comment here. Where are all the good men shopping overseas or going MGTOW? And that's. I mean, we're going to respond one way or another. Um, One way has been MGTOW, and to say, well, that's not going to happen to me again. You know, um, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. I'm not going to be fooled again. Some have been in the MGTOW stage for a while, and then broke out of that and decided, well, you know, I just don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I will consider overseas. And but in either of those cases, a woman here is not going to have somebody when they might get to an age when they feel like, well, I should have somebody by now, or well, I better start getting real serious about finding somebody now because I still want to have children. And the best years for that, I still think, are when you're young, and go out and try to start a family when you're younger. You never can tell how many children you have, but I know some young guys that want five children or more. So starting younger would be a good time for that. Female happiness has gone down every year since 1965. Harvard study on that, actually, called the paradox of female something. Um, well, yeah, I was 4 years old in 1965, and of course things were a lot different then. And no, it would not surprise me at all that there's a lot of unhappiness out there when women have seen their opportunity for fertility pass them by. Maybe they didn't take nice guys seriously when they were younger, and so those opportunities have passed them by, and then there's a lot of regrets. And you don't want to have regrets in your life. You want to have something to run to um, while you still can. three 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 hots on a cot. Hank Hilliam, or are those typos? Um, you know, she's pretty unpicky, I think, generally to begin with. Otherwise, a lot of us guys would have a really hard time finding a wife. Thank you for everybody here this Monday evening. But I don't think they're very picky, and I don't think they're generally materialistic either. Sun Valen, oh yeah, also read some studies showing that the less human connections you have, family, friends, the more obsessed you are in material stuff. And why not? Because you have to look for a fix. Um, in the family and the relationships, they aren't material. When I think about wanting to, see my wife when she gets home from work or going on a vacation, it's not to spend money. It's not to go shopping and buy things. It's the little things of, sharing whatever we can share together for the first time, holding her, telling her how much I care about her. Um, but I can see somebody that doesn't have a relationship, male or female, saying, "Well, I'm just gonna go," and I understand that. Go buy stuff because it's trying to replace what we're not getting in relational aspects, and that might help for a while, but all of those things, they're gonna wear out. They're not gonna last, and I just don't think they're as satisfying as a relationship. And we have another kind of hidden comment here. If you want to change male behavior, you have to change what behaviors females reward with sex companionship. Um, Well, the sex is the big draw for marriage, or nobody would want to get married or feel the need to get married. That was certainly a big attraction or draw for me, and that's the way it should be. But if she's going to give that away to somebody for free, then she's just going to get taken advantage of. Big Rob, I had women say that something must be wrong with me if I haven't had any children by now, and I'm 36. Well, yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, and then you could say, well, I might have been willing to have children by now, but you know what? I have certain standards. They're not unrealistic, but I just couldn't find anybody, and that's why I'm alone. I mean, I never got really introspective on myself, and even when I got to 53 and said, well, I need to tear everything down and start over. I felt like I was trying to improve the things that I could improve and accept the things I couldn't, and nothing was working. So thankfully, I didn't start blaming myself. I just said something isn't working. We got to try something. I didn't know what it was. It turned out to be looking in another country, and the rest is history. J Bud, most divorces in the United States are filed by women. Apparently, about three-fourths of them. Comments on why they are started by women. I probably wouldn't be the best person on that, because I don't know what they're telling their their lawyers. Um, I don't know. I don't even want to speculate on. And Jay, Bud, you probably know enough about this that you could answer your own question. I would defer to you why most divorces in the United States are filed by women. It's hard to believe that three-fourths of the guys would be um, so inept that the women would just want to leave them, because I know that's not what they're saying. Well, Big Rob is one step ahead of you, son Valen. Big Rob is on his way to propose to a woman, and in another country. So Big Rob's one of those younger guys that didn't wait till he was in his 50s or 60s. Um, he said, I still want to get married, and now he's on his way to doing just that. So time to congratulate you, Big Rob, on your what we think is about to be successful engagement. CJ, thank you for joining us this evening. I think it depends if you're operating from your higher thinking. Every moment is a choice, high or low. Sometimes not getting what you want is a blessing in disguise. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Very true. Um, right before I got married to my wife, uh, I think I could have made a disastrous decision, because I was still looking for what options I had here in the West. And, I was really willing to, I guess, take some chances. I had some precautions built in there too. I had some accountability, but like I told my pastor, look, I can't find anybody. You can't find anybody for me. Nobody's been able to find me anybody. I got to start taking some chances, well-conceived risks. Well, fortunately, they weren't interested. And the woman I married was 100 times better. And Jay Bud challenges us here with, okay, guys, share what a real traditional woman is. A real traditional woman, a proper girl that you would marry. List the traits. Um, list the traits. traditional woman. Is that what the question was here? Or a real traditional woman? Well, since I'm hosting tonight, a traditional woman to me would be somebody that enjoys being feminine, that doesn't feel like, without building her muscles up or going to the gym. My wife doesn't do that. She doesn't care about that. When I grab her arms, I tell her, "Hun, you have no bones. You have no muscle. it's all flesh or something," because she's so soft. Um, but she's not going to start taking testosterone or going to the gym and start doing all these things, or doing things that would typically a woman can do, because that's not going to help her be a good wife. That's not going to help her be a good mother, should she be able to be a mother someday. um, she likes looking feminine. I mean, she really almost can't help it, because she's a Filipina, beautiful Filipina. I just told her this morning, I think it was, I said, "Hun, you are a perfect 10 to me. When I look at your face, I see such a beautiful woman." And I really just told her that, because I just love looking at her. Filipinas have such simple features. I mean, beautiful face comes down to just simple, innocent, features, and they have those. So that's one thing. Just accepts being a woman, doing things that women traditionally do, get married, love to keep a nice, orderly house that anybody could come in at any time and would see that it's well kept. If she wanted to be hospitable, likes to cook, okay. I mean, that would be a proper girl, traditional woman, I would think. Now, CJ, I take exception to your comment there, um, because I think marriage is the thing to do. Um, Now, you have to have some discernment, because you can pick a good woman or you can pick a bad woman. You may not recognize some red flags, but that's on the person, right? If I made a grave mistake with Aiza, that's on me. I can't go point the finger to somebody else. I have to look in the mirror. Um, and once married, it's up to me to make sure the things that aren't right that I can fix. Might not get them fixed overnight, because you got to be patient, and you have a long time if you're careful. Just you know, but yeah, I don't. I think marriage is the wise thing to do, and um, there's a biblical aspect for that, but I think there's just a sensible way for that. Now, when I say that, I'm talking about being single means no sex. You don't get the good stuff. And I'm not saying that because that's my opinion. I'm saying that because as a Christian, that's that's part of the rules. And as distasteful as that sounds to me, well, then I better get married. So I appreciate the thumbs up. Um, I think somebody that is wise would be looking to get married, and I would even say as fast as possible. We can debate that too. Um, I think as soon as you're old enough to get married, you ought to be, you know, ideally would be prepared to do that. And when I say prepared, I don't mean knowing everything. I don't mean your brain has fully matured, because that would take till about 25. I don't mean that you have all the knowledge and experience. I don't mean that, because you can always get that while you're married, because if you have other people in your life that you can listen to and that can mentor you, you can get married. And just I'd get married at 18 if I could, but you know, I had to wait till I was older than that. And I'm not the only guy that feels that, if you're smart, you'll get married as soon as possible. And you'll be immature, so will your wife, but so what? Um, You can still go to college. People say, well, no, you can't. Well, who says so? Anybody else want to talk about a real traditional woman to them? CJ, marriage is an institution created by the government and religion. Literally, go back to the first man that was created, which was Adam, and he had God's company, and God Himself said, "This isn't good, not good enough, not what I want, not what I want for you. I want you to have a woman." So that's what He gave him before a day was over. So it didn't take very long to make that point. Adam being with me, God, your creator, is not good enough. It's not what I want. You need a helper like you, but unlike you. So I'm going to put you to sleep, make you a woman. It's going to become your wife, whether you like it or not. And I want you to bear children. And this is going to be the standard until the end of time. And the same message was repeated after the flood. And so nothing has changed since, and nothing will. So it is not a government institution. God created it. Just read Genesis 2. I would say for sure. It's not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper suitable for him, which happened to be a wife. Yeah, Big Rob made that decision a couple years ago, and he's getting closer and closer to being married to somebody that he pursued from another country. And CJ says, it's like you're playing house. I don't want to play in any identity or role of an archetype stuck in cycles, reverberation, redundancy. I'm not sure how all those terms apply. If you're talking about role, I guess you could say it's a role of being a husband. And then once you're married, there's a certain role of being a husband. And I'm not bashful at all to say that, because I think by not doing what I'm saying and thinking is why we're in the mess that we are. And by making certain changes, doing things differently, things are going to be different. I'm staking my marriage on that. I want my role. I want my role as a servant leader of my wife. The rewards for that have been what they should be as she responds to that. Women, I believe, are followers. I believe they are generally made to be responders. And when they go against that and they start doing strange things on their own and trying to be a man, and things just, or like a man, things don't work out. And it's very unappealing and unattractive. So I have a role in my life. Every day I know what my role is to take care of my wife, provide for her, know her, understand her, serve her. And what I get out of that is she's a great wife to me, because she's responding to someone that she knows feels a sense of duty to her. And I'm perfectly all right with that. That's what I want. That's the zone for me, because I intend to do that well, although not perfectly. And when I do fail, like I did recently, I need to apologize. I need to set things straight, and she needs to know that I'm willing to admit my screw ups. But you're free to go your own way, CJ. But I think the role there is a God-given role, and for men and for women, and it works for a lot of us. But I appreciate your comment, though. I really do. J. Bud, Filipinas usually want to be married before 25. This is true. If they can. Western women are waiting later and later. Now, your comments. Well, the age in America is 27 for first time marriage. Now, I don't remember which video it was. it was a couple of weeks ago. I think it was a response to Mr. E's uh, on reciprocity and the Western exodus, where I did quote some statistics. I don't remember how up to date they were. But it was talking about people getting married later, women getting married later, more people being still on here. We've lost about everybody. And we get another notice here: your connection is unstable. Please wait while we try something. Down to one person, which would make it look like we're not even on the air, so to speak. But there's nothing on my end here that says we have lost connection. So if there's anybody here that can just say something like we lost you, maybe I can still see that in the live chat, even though I may have lost you on the screen. Okay, now the number's starting to inch forward, and we will see. I'm going to have to look on my phone and see. Now we got 6, so that's good. Okay, hi Bob. We must be on. New York Mets fan. Let me respond to this text, excuse me, about whether we're still on here. New York Mets fan is here. Michael and Heidi here. Lost you back now. We're back up to 8. Thank you for sticking around. That's only happened one other time before, and I think I had to restart it. But in this case, thank you. We're back up to 10 now. So thank you for staying here. I think everybody's pretty much still here. So just something that happened, and I think the last time that happened, which was the first time that happened, I had the computer on most of the day. Normally when I'm home all day and I'm not here, I'll put it on sleep if I don't turn it off. And so in the back of my mind, I was wondering today if this was going to happen, even though it's been months when it only happened the one time. So I don't know. I guess I should be putting in sleep mode more often. I don't know what else to say. And then CJ says, first there was Lilith, and I am not aware what you mean by that, so I'm going to need some clarification. A twit in the Philippines: if God doesn't want men to be alone, why are there so many incels? God doesn't want a lot of things to be the way they are, but when things go against the way he says things should be, you're going to have chaos. When God says don't be greedy or don't be deceptive, when that happens, it's going to end up, messing up things. And it's not because God wants them that way. It's because people have chosen the wrong path. And if people aren't going to be committed to each other, if they're going to have outrageous standards, if they're not going to treat each other right, then we have free will, and God will let us, the world mess itself up if it wants to. However, if we want to go a certain direction and we want to have his guidance, he'll do that too. And the choice is ours. But another aspect of your question, a twit in the Philippines: incels, why are there so many involuntary celibates like I was? When women that could make you a good wife, for all we know, are overlooking you for some reason. You don't have a college degree, you don't have a brand new car, you don't look a certain way, you're not a certain height, you don't make a certain amount of money, or you don't have a certain type of personality. Well, I guess they have to conclude or consider how important that is in the overall scheme of things. And I think later on, maybe after they've played the field, maybe after they've just invested themselves in the employment market, maybe then they realize that they made a mistake. And then the guys, either, like we talked earlier, either go MGTOW or decide to go overseas. And that's what I did. God doesn't want incels. God wants people married. He told the younger women, Paul did through the Holy Spirit, these are young widows, and he said, get married. Okay, get married. Stop stop being busybodies, gossiping, nothing good to do, get married, bear children, you know, guide the house. That is the role for a woman that I think would make her the most satisfied, the most happy, the least depressed. Um, and so a woman that's not doing that is apt to try to fill that void with other things. And I just know that they're not going to make her happy. But, when, some guys are, well, if they're involuntarily celibate, then I assume that means they don't want to be. They like to change things, but have or feel they have little option. And one thing they can do is, like the rest of us, work on ourselves. If there's something we can do, that's why the lifestyle lounge we have, where men can talk about anything that can help them, a man, any man, in different areas, and not necessarily just to please a woman and get married, but it'll give him a better life and be a better husband if he does get married, and a happier life too, and he is working, towards certain goals. But I don't think God wants incels any more than he wants people cheating on each other, and God doesn't want people getting divorced. Okay, he's already come out and says, I hate that. So he doesn't want that to happen. He allows it to happen. People have a free will, and you what kind of marriage do you have if you're at each other's throats all the time? So it's a concession due to people and the way we can be sometimes, but that's not God's intention. He doesn't want anybody divorced. I'm sure he'd prefer everybody be, get married young and, have the most fruitful lives they can possibly can. But, this is a cursed world. And so we already know we're born for adversity. We already know things aren't going to go right, and we're going to die. People are going to die. And we just never know. But yeah, thanks. You guys let me know that we're all back here. Okay. Sun Valen, yes, Western women are deluded thinking they will have the same market value at age 40 as age 25. So they keep pushing it. Then they hit 40 and wonder, where did all the good men go? Well, those same men are, I don't know, they're reevaluating things all the time, trying to make the best of the situation for ourselves. And if they've been playing the field a lot and, I don't know, becoming materialistic, that's just not very desirable for a lot of men. And by that time, they've either thrown in the towel or they said, I'm going to look in another country if I have to. A lot of people are doing that. Hank Hilliam, I think certain religious institutions do a good job of keeping women accountable. Islam, Mormonism, traditional Catholic Church, and Orthodox Christianity. Well, of course, Islam is quite a bit, I think, off the beaten path of the other three that you mentioned. And sadly, and we talked about this, Michael and Heidi brought this up last time, that a lot of these worldly things are creeping into the church, where the church is not doing what it should be to maintain the standards of marriage and teaching people why they should be married. And I mean, when I was single, I felt like I was, I don't know, a voice. I didn't feel like I was singing to the choir. It's more like a voice shouting in the wilderness, not being heard. Like, why do people think I'm crazy? I want to get married. Why doesn't somebody at least try to help me find somebody or show me where I can go? Until I found one pastor who, said, yeah, you do need to marry. And yes, it's not a good life. And yes, you're hurting because, you need somebody. So he encouraged me to try to get married. And I did. And I'm always going to be grateful to him for that. We meet now and then, talk about things, because, I think he helps me stay on the straight and narrow when I need some good advice. But that isn't even quite like it used to be. But I get what you're saying, Hank, and I think they could do an even better job. Okay, CJ is clarifying here. The Lord Most High created a lesser God, Elohim, instructing him not to create any idols. Elohim disobeyed, creating humans in his own image. We are an abomination by proxy. Well, I don't know what religious documents you're reading that from. Don't know if it's a completely different religion or if it's some kind of apocrypha, um, but that certainly doesn't sound like the Bible that I know. Jay Bud, I'm not disrespecting anyone, but throwing religion around isn't cool. I think we're discussing Western women are pushing men overseas or going MGTOW, and they are. Um, and part of that concerns me is that the men do what they have to do to not be overly bitter. I mean, you can only do so much of the circumstances here. You can't change another person. You can't change the tide of society, but you can influence yourself. Maybe you can influence, somebody else. Um, but I can discuss religious things with somebody in the message forums under a private chat. That's always okay. If we don't have to do that here. We can do that in a private chat in the WordPress site. You have to sign up for that, and then you can hold private chats with multiple people at a time if you want to. Western women are not worth it. Well, things have changed. I'm sure there are some good ones because there are still people getting married and are happy, but I don't know if those are just younger people or I don't know. I just think it's getting more difficult. J Bud asked most foreign women what they really think about American girls. They don't hold them in high regard. Well, maybe the word is getting around, but just a casual look at movies and television shows. I think you can see some deterioration there in traditional roles, I would call it. Big Rob, Western women have drove us away after failure for 17 years in the U.S. I said, I quit and found success finally. And other guys, hopefully, will do the same thing if they reach the point of no return in the United States. I still think marriage is the best thing. I think bad marriage is a bad thing. Someone told me there's nothing better than a good woman, and there's nothing worse than a bad one. And there are men finding good women. I did. Nobody's finding a perfect woman, but you can still have a very satisfying marriage that gets better in time. So, gentlemen, would you like to talk about, what would you like to talk about? Some of the videos I did here recently were about ways to not blow it with a Filipina online, which could apply to anybody in a online or long distance relationship. We can talk about that, the need for honesty. We've talked about the exodus here from the West, Americanized Filipinas. Did a video on ways. I had like 29 ways to kind of prevent your Filipina from becoming Americanized, because, well, a lot of people say, don't you dare bring her to America. But a lot of us have brought our spouse to America or some other country. We seem to be doing okay. And again, I think that's a myth. Just because some people maybe made the wrong choice and brought somebody over here, maybe they didn't protect her somehow, and things unraveled. That doesn't mean that it's a guarantee that that's going to happen for everybody. I don't believe that's going to happen to me. I mean, I'm bold enough to make a video called "Why My Filipina Will Never Leave Me." Another one, "Why My Filipina Will Never Cheat on Me." And then another one, why my Filipina will not lie to me. And if you find those videos, Google them or something, search on YouTube. I need to be, I know this is a scam or something unimportant. I need to be confident in what I say, or there's no point in me being here saying anything. And I also have to be living out what I say and making sure I improve things if things aren't going right. Jay Bud, when I tell Filipinas that my coworkers buy breakfast and lunch and they're married, they can't believe it. Well, what do you mean by that? I must not be seeing that. I'm a little dense right now, Jay Bud. I need some clarification. Walt Tolander, thank you for being here, Walt. I still believe I'll find my Proverbs 31 lady in the Philippines. The Proverbs 31 woman is the goal. That is the high standard or goal of a good woman. And I think that it would be, and I did a video, Walt, on Proverbs 31 woman. I believe I looked at how to praise your wife, and I used that chapter, Proverbs 31. And okay, thanks, Jay Bud, about traits of the Proverbs 31 woman. This is what a woman should want to be like, and a good woman probably does a lot of those inherently, and then but that's because she's a high quality woman. I can see some of that in my wife, Proverbs 31 woman. But it says, who can find a virtuous woman or excellent woman, for her price is far above rubies. They're rare. Thing to remember about Proverbs 31 is it's a high standard, and if a woman can accomplish that, it's going to take a long time. But a good woman wants to be that type of woman. It also says, who can find a faithful man, because men, and this is, God just tells it like it is, we tend to be unfaithful and unreliable. That's what we need to work on. We need to work on devotion, faithfulness, accountability, and reliability. And there are things that a woman needs to aspire to. And Proverbs 31 talks about that. Okay. Yeah. And you clarified somewhere, and I just can't see it. Oh, okay. Yeah. Lazy Western women don't cook. Yeah, and my wife wants me to go to work with, you've seen in one of my videos what she packs for me. Thank you for the thumbs up. The Filipino wife does not want her husband going to work, buying junk food, going through the line if you have a cafeteria at work like we do, spending lots of money, overpriced, prices to buy food. She wants you to put your food down, take out your little containers, and have people see a solid, healthy food there for her husband, because the Filipina thinks that's a reflection on me. She wants her children, just like the Proverbs 31 woman, she wants them to have appropriate clothing for all seasons. She wants to make sure they're well fed, and fed not junk food, but good food. So a Filipina will cook, even if she's working overtime. Definitely, Jay Bud. That's a good point. I'm happy, to sit down and wonder what people are thinking about what's in that lunch container, because, it's what Aiza bought and cooked, and it's pretty good food. So yeah, now I get it. And I hope you do, Walt. I hope you find that woman, and you'll know when you talk to her and observe her, what type of woman she wants to be. Yeah. Oh yeah. Look at the line of cars at the drive-through at dinner time. Yeah, or lunchtime, Jay. But I've been home for, well, September 30th. I had my knee replaced, and then I had nerve damage as a result of the surgery, which I knew right away something wasn't right. So I went to the neurologist, and I have sural nerve damage. It's in the very back of the calf. And the other day, a sleep study, I needed to be wheelchaired to my car when it was done because I couldn't walk, couldn't put pressure on that foot. Um, but I would go to, or my mother, she'd drive me to physical therapy, and I couldn't drive. We'd go to lunch and just long lines. And I keep telling myself, this is supposed to be fast food. So yeah, if you have somebody that can cook you good food, you're probably going to live longer too. And it's it's uh, it's good. I don't usually have to buy food. In fact, if I go through the line, the woman in the cafeteria says, "Aiza didn't cook for you today. What's up with that?" So because she's used to coming over and asking me what I have to eat. They ask everybody what they brought to eat. Damien Dolomite, good to see you here today for the first time. New York Mets fan. If I didn't acknowledge you earlier, Michael and Heidi. J. Bud, many women in the West work just like men, so they would have the same amount of free time as you do. But Italian women, Thai women, Indian women, Chinese women, they are all like that, though. My wife works more hours than I do. If I can work Monday through Friday and then, overtime for 5 or 6 hours on the weekend, that's what I try to do. That's what, 46 hours, 47 hours. She rarely works 40 hours. She'll usually work 50, 55, excuse me, or 60. We're talking about traditional women earlier, she still cleans the house. It always looks clean, even if it's not necessarily been clean, because it's always upkept. And she still cooks. I think she just considers it what she does. Yeah, all those women cook for their men. Yeah, 60 hours. Well, if the limit were more, Damien, she would work more than that. I remember about, oh boy, it must have been 2004 when we had a time at work where we had unlimited overtime. My boss approached me about that because they knew I like to work overtime. They said, we got to get this product out the door in another department. They're letting people work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. So there was a limit. It was 44 hours of overtime a week. And of course, some people, even older people that were trying to retire soon, were trying to build up their pensions. So yes, they would work 35, 40, 44 hours a week overtime. They'd work their job from, what was one guy? He'd work from 6 in the morning till 2. And then he would put in 4 hours after work. On weekend, he'd work 12 hours. He'd work 6 hours in the morning, go home and sleep, and work 6 hours in the evening. Then he'd come back Sunday morning, work 6 hours, and then he'd go back Sunday evening and work 6 hours. I don't know how the guy had a chance to even cut his hair. But now I'm glad Aiza doesn't have that, because her eyes would probably get big as saucers, but sometimes, is enough for her. So I really don't have to manage her too much with her overtime, because if she feels like, it's just getting to be too much, will take some time off. I have to remember she has a little more energy than I do. It's nice to have someone cook for you. Yeah, she does work overtime. She's working 12 hours today, even though she's not feeling well. Of course, I say, then come home after 8 hours. And then she'll say, well, she signed up. And one of the things I tell her is to keep your word. I do. I tell her, keep your word, even if it hurts you. I think she should tell the children in the Philippines the same thing. Keep your word. Don't say something if you don't mean it. Say what you mean what you say, but keep your word. So if she says, well, I got to stay, then I guess that's what I taught her to do. Don't tell them something. By the same token, if you're sick you would think they would make an exception, except they would just charge her with an absent or a inexcused absence. If she said, I signed up for 4 hours, then you get sick during the day and she leaves, as far as I know, that's an inexcused or not inexcused. Yeah, it would be some kind of inexcused absence because it was within 24 hours. It wasn't within 24 hours. I mean, it was within 24 hours. If you're going to make a change, it has to be outside of 24 hours or it's unexcused. Those are just the silly rules. I know you got to have some rules, but sometimes they border on being silly. Damien, okay, but is it fair to put down Western women is what I mean. Perhaps Asian women are more hardworking. It is true they can work, clean, cook, etc. But men just work usually. And that, I'll take your word for it on those other countries, Damien. I've seen it up close and personal with my wife. And I appreciate that and I respect that. Now, sometimes it feels like, well, maybe she's overdoing it or, it gets in the way of spending more time with her. And that's just the thing, it's be careful what you wish for. I mean, it's good to have a hardworking woman who doesn't want to rely on you to help her family back home all the time and wants to be responsible. But that means she's going to put in the hours, put in the hours, you're going to get tired a little bit. But yeah, she'll still do everything she can to make sure things look nice and I'm well fed. And I think the aspects that some Western women are being put down tonight is, just, not well, just I don't know. I don't know if they feel oppressed by men or they want to be men. They want to look like men, act like men, don't want to submit in marriage, don't want to get married till they're much older, leaving guys who ordinarily would have a better chance to get married to not be able to get married. And those are some of the things we're running over tonight. Damien, one thing I noticed is that things are more harmonious with Asian women. Well, I would say you know about Asian women. I think they've always had a good reputation, just like Filipinas have, for making good wives. I'm not shocked by anything that I see in my wife. My back is kind of hurting me here. That's why I'm shifting around so much. It hasn't surprised me. That's one of the reasons I was looking for someone like her. And I knew in our communication online that she wanted to work when she got here. After we had gotten married, she wanted to work. I was okay if she didn't. But she wanted to work, especially if, she wasn't going to get pregnant right away. And yeah, these younger women that you marry in the Philippines and probably elsewhere do want to be mothers. They want to have children. Jay Butt says, yep, Western women are on the job, and the job is more important than the husband. Guys are sick of being shortchanged. They're looking for foreign wives or going MGTOW. Yeah, Jay Budd's well read on this topic and what goes on behind the scenes. Someone like me that would not really be keeping up with that. But work importance has gone up, not with every woman, but with some women. And of course, that's going to cut into your time together. And a lot of women now are taking jobs that require them to be travel, for example. Well, then they're not even, going to see them that night. A lot of them are getting more higher up jobs that require time away from the family, more so than usual even. Jay, but I can understand that. So what you want is a woman who doesn't work out of the house, which is fine. The thing about that is, Damien, with a woman from the Philippines is, boredom. I did a video on that, boredom. Somebody can look that up sometime, because if she's bored, then she's open to different temptations and thinking, well, maybe she made a mistake. You need to talk about the work thing, because if her heart is intent on working, and it may be even if she says she's okay with not working, she probably wants to work. Why? Somebody's got to send the money to the family, because she will be shamed if she doesn't do her part. She will be shamed. That's part of the culture. If you didn't know that, now you do. If there are children, she's probably going to be ecstatic if they're your children, and sometimes even if they're, if they're your children, the two of you together, and sometimes even if they're not, she will enjoy being a stay-at-home mom. If her needs are taken care of, then I think she would be more likely to like that, because she's more of a traditional woman. Otherwise, I think, she's going to want to work outside the house. She's got to support the family. They're relying on her, and there's a cultural element where she must. And so you should be aware of that. Damien says, living in an expensive city, you cannot survive without a double income unless you make high six figures. Yeah. And even in a standard, I don't know, what do you call it, middle class situation here in the Midwest, it often does take two salaries unless you both have a plan. And I know I've seen this. We both have a plan, but you have to live you have to live without certain things, and you probably have to live with one car. But if she wants to work, you're probably going to wish you had two cars. Otherwise, you'll be taking her work a lot. But yeah, if the job becomes more important than the husband, that's not going to end well, of course. Well, and the submission thing is is being understanding. I don't know if you're referring to working, but if I tell my wife, look, I want you to stay at home, well, technically she should. However, you also have to understand her, and that's a mandate too. And I think 1 Peter 3:7, dwell with them according to knowledge. You got to know her, and she may not always reveal everything she could right away, but you got to learn to know her and the culture. And once you realize how absolutely imperative it is that she works so she can send money back home, then if you don't have her do that, then you're going to have to send that money back home. But then what is she going to do at home? You'll have to have a plan for her at home. You'll have to talk to her. Are you okay here, staying at home, and monitor how is she really doing with that. She still may say she really would prefer to work, but this is a difficult situation. Each foreigner, Westerner, has to talk about with her, because I might say, hey, this is the best thing, I want you to do it, but it may not be the right time. She may not be ready for that. And then I'm making a bad decision. But again, as the husband, that's my bad decision, and I'm going to pay the consequences for it, and I'll reap the benefits of a good one. And some decisions are easier made than others, and require a lot of patience and advice and prayer to know what to do. I just have to do the best I can to be the type of husband she would want to actually follow. And, I got to earn that too. Damon, it's a problem. How can you work and make money and be aggressive at work and then come home and be submissive? It would be hard, I'm guessing. Well, yeah, it depends. Again, if she's an Asian woman, Filipina, I don't think she's not, it's different. This is, she wants to come home. She wants to have a good relationship with her husband. The submission thing, she's supposed to be submissive to her husband, but this is not something that is easy. it's something that can develop over time when she realizes her husband is not going to be controlling. He's going to be uh, forgiving. Um, you have to earn that, because yeah, not many women will just say, "Hey, here I am. I'm going to submit to my husband no matter what." That's kind of wishful thinking. She should, but by the same token, her husband can't assume that. He's got to, do things a certain way that would make that more likely to happen. But my wife, she'll work her hours, come home, do the cleaning. We'll sit around and talk, like we have been now, and go to bed. And um, there's no real issues. My wife isn't working because she's a feminist. She's not working to try to get hers or be like a man. She's not doing it for that. She's doing it because it's a cultural expectation for her to send money home. That dynamic is different than, what we see in the West. Damien Dolomite, is my experience watching friends that Asian women in particular will not be very loving to children who are not their own. And Praise Journey, thank you for joining us as well. Um, well, that's unfortunate, and I can't comment on that. Um, what I think of right away is the YouTube channel, Crazy Filipino Love. It's a good channel. He's got, I don't know, 15, 16 videos, probably 9,000 subscribers by now. He's got 3 or 4 children, and his younger Filipino wife raises them. And obviously, that's what he went out and figured he needed and wanted, and that's what he got. And it's their job now together to work through all of those dynamics. And the videos I've seen, the few that I've seen, I don't sense any tension between the Filipina and those children. So I can't agree or disagree with you for everybody, Damien. But um, I know men would prefer to be raising their own children, so it's not a stretch that a woman might prefer to do the same thing too. Um, Praise Journey, we're kind of open forum here, talking about anything this Monday evening and before the snow hits the Midwest. Just want to mention again that we have 2 message forums that I linked at the top, where we're hoping to get people talking in the lifestyle lounge, relationship lounge. We can talk about things like this, but we want to be focused on improvement and finding love overseas, long-term relationships. Um, Not about giving up, not about making excuses. I want it to be a place where people can actually go and be uplifted and learn some things. So by clicking on that link, I think it's the first one at the very top, you can join up. We do have more activity now every week, where you can go and kind of join in. You click on the little arrow to the left, and you can reply to whatever comment is in that thread. And there's an edit button there. There's a search button if you want to type in, something like, cryptocurrency, or you can find something going on there. We have a good privacy thread right now in the lifestyle lounge that you can go to. Probably just do a search for privacy, but it's pretty much right there. You'll catch up to it. But that's something that's open to anyone who really is honestly interested in moving forward in life, looking for a woman overseas, especially. It doesn't have to be here. I mean, with the Philippines, rather. So that's something in time we want to have a big thing, because I think it's nice to have a positive place where people can vent, but also be looking, what they can do and learn from other people as they continue to look for love overseas. So Praise Journey, I know last time you had lots of things on your mind to talk about, and I appreciate that. So We're still on here for tonight. Usually I go much longer than this. This is anybody wants to talk about anything. This is what it's all about. I want to answer questions. I want to be as factual as I can. Love Beyond the Sea is not about Bob and Aiza's life. Um, it's just not. I don't think that anybody really would find that very fascinating. It is a YouTube channel about the person out there that is looking to find love overseas. And I want to give my 2 cents on what I feel very strongly about works. And that's not gonna sound good to everybody, but that's what I'm here for. This is something I take very seriously. I've gotten great help from the enigmatic one, Mr. E, who designed the whole WordPress website that you can click on. I think it's the second link down. It's got the Facebook, the Twitter, Life Beyond the Sea there, or Love Beyond the Sea, excuse me. It's got the message board now. We're working on getting a newsletter. At the very least, I can say what the next live stream is going to be about and when it's coming out, that sort of thing, which right now is hard to do because I don't have 1,000 subscribers. I can't do a post, but he's working on a newsletter that you can sign up for and just send that to your email when we're going to do, a live stream coming up. How can you keep the younger woman satisfied, if you know what I mean? Do you take Viagra? Damien Dolomite. Well, I would say this. You're obligated to keep her satisfied. It's not the first time I've said that here. I don't know. I mean, like I'm saying, avail yourself of whatever you can, if it's legal and available, if you need that. Why? Well, because you owe it to her, you owe it to yourself. Now, some say, I'm just not going to use Viagra or sildenafil. Sildenafil is cheaper than Viagra. You can get sildenafil. Just ask your doctor for sildenafil. He should know about that. He should probably be asking you if you want that as an alternative because it's the same thing. And but that's a good question, Damien. We don't shy away from questions here because it doesn't matter whether you're with a Filipina or somebody your own age from America, as long as they have needs and wants, the foreigner is obligated to take care of that. I mean, what sense does it make to marry a younger woman and then ignore those needs that she has? You married a younger woman. You probably married her for, well, I mean, it's just self-explanatory, isn't it? There's lots of reasons to marry a younger woman, but she is a younger, virile woman. And as a husband, it's your responsibility to do whatever you need to do, whatever she wants. Now, I can turn that around and say it's the same thing. The woman, the wife, this is just straight from 1 Corinthians 7, very matter of fact, sexual pleasure is something each spouse owes the other person. In fact, the Bible calls it a debt. You owe it. I owe my wife pleasure, satisfaction, intimacy, whatever you want to call it. And she owes that to me. Doesn't sound romantic, but it's not supposed to be. It's practical. It's realistic. And that's something that she should expect. If for some reason that's not something that he can give her, she needs to know about it before they get married. Wouldn't you agree? Praise journey, I think, is important to also know your wife's love language. And I've got a video on that I'm going to do one of these days. Problems can arise if your wife's language is acts of service. And maybe this is a prompt for me to work on that sooner than later. I've already written it. I've written like 214 articles that will be videos, believe it or not. So again, I take this channel, this I don't know, this brand or this message very seriously. That's why I work so hard on it. Now going back to work off of surgery, things won't be the same. So I need to get as much written and prepared as I can. But the love language is part of that. If for example, my love language is, not surprisingly, words. I've always loved words. Words have always, since I was in elementary school, I've had an affinity for words. They're like, characters, personalities. I like words. And so what works for me if I go to work is to hear that I've done a job well. What works for me at home is I've done a job well. That my wife appreciates me, that she is happy with me, and so that's what I need. I certainly do not need her to buy me gifts. Praise Journey, you're right on here. If my wife's now, for example, that's my love language, and if I naturally turn around to my wife and try to put my love language, which would be, I guess, words of affirmation, then if that's not her love language, what works for me isn't going to work for her. And if her, like you say, if her love language is acts of service, then guess what? I need to be learning how to do for her acts of service that speak her love language, that lets her know that I love her. Because if that's what she needs to feel loved, and I do something else, that's not very smart, and she's not going to feel loved. So, as long as, and I do tell her, I tell her all the time how much I appreciate her and I love her. Now that comes naturally for me because that's my love language. I need to know I'm doing a good job. I just do. I don't need a reward or a gift necessarily. I'm looking for, am I doing a good job? Are you satisfied with me at work? It's nice to have a nice raise, but again, most people I think at work just want to be appreciated, and I want to be appreciated by my wife. So that's my love language. And my wife's, she probably does like gifts more than I do, and I have to admit, since that is not my love language, I don't understand buying somebody gifts, and that's probably something I need to go back and revisit, because although I've done a video on it, I'm not sure how much I applied that to her. So she doesn't talk very much, so maybe gifts is her love language. And by the same token, having said that, I have made her family a big priority for me. And so what's good for my wife's family is good for my wife. And so it may be that by being good to her family, generous to her family, seeking ways to be good to her, because my wife, we're married. I think my wife has less material needs than her family. And maybe, she sees that as speaking her language. But honestly, that's a good comment. And I, learn about your wife's love language. You can ask her about that, because she does have a particular way of treating her that expresses to that individual that you love her. And if you're not going to speak that language and speak something else, then it's kind of like shooting yourself in the foot. So yeah, it's Damien, I agree. And Damien's 47. We have another guy not here tonight that is 47. We have some younger guys here too, which is good to see. And I know some guys in their 20s are watching Love Beyond the Sea too. I know they are. Apparently, about 100% of the watch minutes now are between ages of 25 and 34. Even though I know I've got older men that are watching like tonight too. The sex is hotter with a young woman, should be. So I assume you're married for that reason. Um, I didn't want to, you know, live the rest of my life without sexual intimacy because there's a lot of, it's just it's a need, and it's not just a need for release. It's a need for emotionally and mentally. Um, it's just a good thing. It's a healthy thing, and when that is deprived from someone, not only does it create tension and temptation, but also gives the impression that you don't love them, because most men, I guess, if you count, sex as a love language, which I don't think it's in the love language book necessarily. But if you look at Willard F. Harley Jr.'s book, his needs, her needs, sex is number one for the man. And I think respect might be number two. So women, sexual aspect, respecting your husband, that's what he wants. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. A good sex life is just a good thing. However, a good sex life isn't automatic either, and can go south in a hurry. Um, but I think you guys can tell what I'm talking about. It's not automatic, um, but it's good to get to know one person, I think, really, really well. Praise Journey says, I also married for companionship, by the way, Damien, and touch, sex, companionship, touch. That's pretty much it for me, to distill it to those three things. Praise Journey, couples should turn away from porn 100% as a stimulant. I have seen it destroy marriages. Um, I've read about that over and over. I don't personally know people whose lives have been destroyed, but I know it has. I just don't understand it because, well, it's not real. It's not realistic. And it also can, not to get too technical, and I don't remember what parts of the brain it is, but it does do things or rewire the brain. I read a book on that, and it can actually ultimately make a guy unable to respond to a normal, sexual relationship. He may get married someday and find out, it doesn't work. He can't respond because you can read about this. I wish I knew the part of the brain that this was involved. Maybe it'll come to me, but probably not. It's been a while. But yeah, it'll rewire your brain chemistry. That's a fact, and it can make things, very difficult. So yeah, so Praise Journey, I agree with that. Michael and Heidi, thank you, Michael, for being here. I find working out with weightlifting keeps masculinity going for me. Yeah, I worked out, Michael, for like 30 years. The best shape I ever was in was when I got married. I'm not, I've just continued to have surgeries and health issues. And I don't know. Once in a while I'll have a dream that I'm in the gym because I did it so, so regimented for so many years. But, when things keep hurting and you got to eliminate this exercise and those two exercises, and then you can't do that anymore because your neck hurts or your shoulder hurts or your back hurts, then eventually it's like, look, what's the point? Now, the good thing is the Filipina is not going to be looking for someone that's pushing weights around all the time. I'm sure she doesn't have anything against it, but she wants, more, other things like being a good provider, being a good listener, being good to her emotionally, building her up, affirming her, because women tend to have lower self-esteem. Yeah, I get it with the weights. I mean, if I wasn't hurting so much, I might do the same thing. Men needing respect. That's how we are loved. Well, and when a wife doesn't submit to her husband, he's going to feel disrespected. He's probably going to tell her that. And it's tough. It's tough for women to be submissive. I mean, in marriage, the wives are the picture of, well, marriage is a picture of Christ in the church. So we are not God. I mean, we typify God, but we are not perfect. And we know, since we are technically the bride of Christ, there are many times we don't do what we're supposed to, and we don't even care. So you want to know what it's like for God to take on a sinful bride to try to cleanse her and make her perfect? Just get married. You'll see what God has to put up with on a much grander scale. And I'm not a perfect husband. That doesn't mean we can't have a successful, good marriage, because we can. But men need respect. And, you know, any way she can show him respect is a great thing. Praise Journey, your fiance's love language is gifts. She loves to give gifts and receive them. Well, of course. And so, yeah, I guess if that's not your love language, you might feel like you have to grit your teeth and go out and do that. But, she probably doesn't want expensive gifts, I'm guessing. She just likes the feeling of receiving something from someone, because they know that it makes her feel important, and so they give them and that gift, and that's very wise. You really should know what her language is. And I have a video, one of the 214 that I've written, that comes that's about things we didn't talk about before getting married, and another one is about questions to ask your spouse after you're married. We still have not gone through, almost all of those questions. We're just kind of been living day to day, and I think we can do better than that. And maybe I need to round up those questions and talk to her when we go to the Philippines, because we're going to have so much idle time in the plane. So I think that could be a good thing to do. So I appreciate those additional comments, gentlemen, and thank you for being here tonight. And if there are no more further questions, you guys, along with me, will be getting ready for Thanksgiving. I'm going to put out an upload on Wednesday about Keanu Reeves and his age-appropriate 46-year-old girlfriend. You might find that interesting. And then after that, I don't know. I hope that my wife and I can do a live stream. I haven't talked with her about it, so I have to do that first, because I know she will have the weekend off. It's the holidays, and that'll be good for her. And maybe this Saturday night we'll be able to do a live stream with Thanksgiving over. The last one we did on a Saturday did pretty good. And give you one more chance to ask questions here tonight. I'd be glad to talk about them. I appreciate everybody that showed up tonight. I'm glad we talked about the love language, because that is very important. So with that said, just one last comment here about subscribing Love Beyond the Sea. I don't know if some of you are subscribers, because most of my subscribers hide their identity, so I don't know most of the time. But we want subscribers. We want comments, either in the in YouTube or in the community corner. We want to stick around for the rest of my life and try to be a positive influence for changing people's lives to not give up, because I know I was this close to calling it quits, and I am so glad I didn't. And so I just want to do what I can to help. So I read one more comment here. 47, told my fiance I just ran 3.7 miles, and she said, "Don't worry about looking perfect. The main thing she wants is my heart and love for her." And praise Journey, that's because you could look like an Adonis, but what good does that do? if you're self-absorbed and uh, you know cheap and controlling. She does want a man with a good heart, somebody that will be devoted to her, cherish her. All women like that, and Filipinas give you a lot to appreciate and like. And so I'm glad you said that. Not just small gifts. Um, well, I hope I wish you well on that. But you're ahead of the game, Praise Journey. You know what she likes, and this isn't just a selfish um, like. It's a language. There are certain characteristics, type of love languages that women have and men have, and there's not that many of them, but there are categories, and that is one of them. Mine is words of affirmation. I don't need the gifts. I just want the words. Am I doing a good job? Uh, my wife, I think she likes the gifts, not because she's materialistic. Um, it just means something to her that it doesn't mean to me. Um, but I can't impose my love language on her because it's not her. She speaks a different language that way. So very good that you brought that up. And yes, I do have an article written for that. We put the videos up there in WordPress in article form. All of those things are help designed to get Love Beyond the Sea out there more. And we do have more subscribers than we have ever before, and more views than we ever have before. But want to keep gaining momentum, and mention the message board as a way that could possibly open doors up even more, as men can talk about women from all over the world, not just the Philippines. So I appreciate the thumbs up. I appreciate you guys giving me up to an hour and 48 of your time tonight, Monday night. And I look forward to doing another live stream with you in the future. So stay tuned for that. Have a good rest of the day. And this is Bob from Love Beyond the Sea.